One of the few times I ever didn't understand the weird amount of hate something got. Because before I watched this movie, it had already been out for several years, and I was just going through Marvel movies and all that good stuff. And I remember hearing that this movie wasn't good. And after watching it, I didn't understand that whatsoever. This is by far one of the best depictions of the Punisher out there. Now, did it get a little weird and over the top in places? Yeah, from time to time, but I mean, that's some of the best stuff from the Punisher. Aside from him just gunning people down, the weirdly creative ways that he'll take out an opponent is the other side of some of the most fun elements of the Punisher. Now, they took things in an interesting direction by having it be that, Frank Castle starts off as a undercover FBI agent and a former Special Forces operative. Goes out on his final mission, which results in the death of a mafia boss's son. And so it was Frank's final mission. He gets out, goes about the rest of his life. But the mafia boss, Howard Saint, played by John Travolta of all people, he's just all up in random movies and stuff. He has a vendetta. He finds out, he wants to know why his son got killed the way he did. And then he finds out about Frank Castle and orders Frank Castle's family him to be killed at his family reunion that he goes to. However, Saint's wife tells him, kill the entire family. So they come in guns blazing, mow down Frank's entire family line. Not just his wife and kids, no, his extended entire family just taken out right there. And Frank is shot and left for dead, only to be nursed back by some random fisherman. Now, it's kind of weird how Frank manages to survive that. I always felt conflicted about the opening scene because I always thought it was a little on the cheesy side. And, Frank was actually outed because Howard had managed to bribe a law enforcement officer. And, ultimately the FBI weren't willing to go after Saint himself because he's just too big. Taking out his son was one thing, but going after him, it's a little dicey for them. They don't really have what they would need to take this guy down properly through the proper channels. So Frank moves into this abandoned building. Some of the best stuff happens when there's just some vigilante in an abandoned building. That's why I love Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. It's all about, not an abandoned building, but a building with few tenants in it, very poor, run-of-the-mill, down-on-their-luck kind of people. And Frank uses that as his base of operations and starts going after his henchmen one by one, finding out little things about their lives and everything that goes on with them and stuff like that, little secrets here and there. So Frank starts sabotaging Saint's businesses and relations and all this stuff, like really taking it to him where it hurts. And of course, Saint figures out that Castle is alive, starts sending hitmen after him. The best hitman is this big Russian dude that just manhandles the shit out of Frank. It is the best stuff in the movie, and honestly probably goes on a little too long for my taste, but at the same time it was so great. And a lot of the tenants help out Frank where they can, and refuse to out him even under torture. And one of the best stuff is when Frank manages to blackmail and arrange for one of Saint's men, his best friends, to be in a position where he's with Saint's wife, and it makes it look like Saint's best friend and his wife are having an affair when they really aren't. So Saint kills his best friend as well as his wife, only for Castle to roll up on Saint's base of operations, starts mowing down everyone. I love the climax of the movie because it's just Frank just taking it to everyone. Like, there's a bit of a slow start as this movie goes on. Frank isn't like killing people. He's mostly just taking down people here and there. honestly, there's not too much of an overabundance of violence in this movie until you get to like the last third of it, where Frank is just taking down people left, right, and center. And Castle eventually shoots Saint, and he's there lying dying, and then Castle is just like, yeah, I set up your friend and your wife and you killed them in cold blood because you're a murdering fucker. And I always remember the last scene, well, this close last scene of this movie, where at the climax, Frank ties Saint to a car and just has it drive into this parking lot rigged with explosives, and then Frank is just walking away and it just explodes. And I'm just like, oh man, that is so wild. And at the end, Frank was gonna off himself because it's just like, well, I did everything I needed to do. I avenged my family and all that. But a vision of his wife makes him decide to stop and fight crime. So he leaves Saint's money to the tenants to help them repair everything that was broken, and Frank heads out to punish the world. Specifically, the world's most devious, deranged, and bloodthirsty criminals. Yes, he goes forward as the Punisher. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a flop, but Thomas Jane played a really good Frank. More kind of subdued, not as over the top as a lot of later portrayals. Like even John Bernthal's portrayal, which I love. I love John Bernthal's portrayal of the Punisher, doesn't have the same kind of everyman feel that Thomas Jane's portrayal of the Punisher has. Like, Thomas Jane's portrayal of the Punisher, I feel like he was an army man who tried to leave that life behind and ended up being caught up in a bad situation, and he went out for revenge. But you know, that's kind of the thing. To a certain degree, in this movie, Frank brings his situation kind of upon himself because of the nature of his work. That doesn't make what happened to him right. It's just, it was something that happened as a result of the job that he had. So retribution kind of makes sense to a certain degree. Whereas in the comics, it's just violence that kills his family. Mob violence. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Frank's vendetta against all things crime makes a lot more sense because he has no one to directly blame for what happened, because it was just something that happened by accident pretty much. They weren't directly going after Frank. It's just something that happened and it was a tragedy. But I'm gonna be real. I initially, upon watching it, I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. Was it the best movie ever? No. But I just had fun watching it. I mean, the only downside would probably be that I never felt at any point that this Punisher would be someone who would go toe to toe with Daredevil or Spider-Man and manage to outwit them, because he just felt like a normal dude. But that's how I like my Punisher. A lot more down to earth than you think he would be. But I'm curious, why did people not like it? Why did potentially you not enjoy this movie? I'm very fascinated to hear from you because, I mean, I came out of it being like, yeah, it's pretty good. I actually like it. I would easily like to own this movie. In fact, I'm questioning why I never owned this movie, but I think I was kind of moving past DVDs by the time I actually got around to watching this. But I just never understood the initial, not so much hate, but just a general dislike for this movie that I saw when I first got around to watching it. But I got around to watching it around like 2011 or something. So maybe opinions have changed in recent years. I know that there's a large fan community that wished that Thomas Jane could have returned to the role of the Punisher. I know that there was even a fan film made with Thomas Jane starring. So I'm curious on your thoughts. Just let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.